Okay, well, it's my pleasure to welcome our keynote speaker, Alton Glass. He is a creative entrepreneur and immersive storyteller. He stands at the forefront as CEO of GRX Immersive Labs, a future-forward studio powering emerging technologies to innovate storytelling, accelerate immersive education, and amplify culture. His narratives aren't just stories, they're experiences. Passionate about powering others, Glass is reshaping the contours of digital storytelling, ensuring voices are heard and new perspectives are brought to life. Recognized as an alumni of the Oculus Launchpad and Unreal Engine's Virtual Production Fellowship, he co-created the immersive experience, The March, for Time magazine, vividly recreating the 1963 March on Washington and Martin Luther King Jr.'s timeless speech. Pretty awesome experience if you haven't tried it on the Oculus Quest. His innovative spirit was further showcased at Tribeca Immersive in POV, Points of View, a sci-fi VR exploration of implicit biases in AI and policing. Through arts, beats, and tech, his collaboration with Verizon, he's building bridges between creativity, technology, and learning, empowering a new generation of innovators. With each project, Glass's commitment to empowerment and immersive storytelling aims to inspire creators to design the future. Glass's contributions have been recognized with the Culture Creator Award for Technology and as an Accenture Breakout Star for Tech by Black Enterprise. Please join me in welcoming Alton.
How y'all doing today? It's good. You're looking forward to a wonderful lineup of great panels and classes about technology, but I'm here today to talk to you about how to leverage the technology. First, I want to say thank you to University of Michigan for the invitation to be here with you. And thank you for your time. You could be anywhere right now, but you're giving me your time, so I really appreciate that. And as we go through, I may check in with you to make sure everything is moving smooth. I may give you a thumbs up if things are going great, thumbs down if it's kind of drifting. And just in case you're trying to get to that door, it's real loud so they will see when you're leaving. Thank you. So I want to start by just framing up what this is about, because it won't be rooted so much into technology, but how I've been able to use it and how it's transformed my life by how I leverage technology. By show of hands, how many people are excited about the future of innovation right now, what's happening in technology? Okay, and there's a lot of sentiment around fear as well. How many are a little bit concerned about the future of technology right now, by show of hands, right? It can be a little scary, right? Especially trying to keep up with the technology, right? You feel like there's always something new coming out. You always have to, jump onto the next thing. So chasing the technology was a big struggle for me, especially transitioning from film into XR. So today I'm going to talk to you about a transformative journey of harnessing the power of XR technologies. But most importantly, three things I want you to take away is embracing change, adaptability, and leaning into your own strengths with the technology, right? So that you can evolve, so you can thrive in the evolving media landscape, and most importantly, we can develop together purpose-driven innovation around what we're doing together in this ecosystem. Can y'all see the slides good? All right. All right. So first, let me introduce you to the journey. I want to take you back to my humble beginnings. I'm a native of Detroit. And so I'm really happy to be here in Ann Arbor as well. My dad used to come here a lot. But I'm going to take you back to when I was just a kid in Detroit, Michigan, where imagination was my closest friend. I was a latchkey kid. Anybody remember being a latchkey kid growing up? I know that ages me. Like I'm in my 40s, I'll be 45, right? And what I found interesting about being a latchkey kid back then was, well, first and foremost, I can't imagine leaving my kids at home in 4th grade right now to their imagination, right? Trying to cook fish sticks and grilled cheese without blowing up the house. But one thing I can say is they're determined, right? And I was determined to create an avenue for myself while I was home by myself. And my imagination was sparked when I was watching a NASCAR race. And I would pick up, I didn't have video games, technology, and things like that at home. So I would take like a a VHS tape, and I would watch NASCAR races, and I would watch it for hours, just enthralled by the loud cars, and I would pick one, and that became my own video game, right? And I would pick a car and decide, okay, this is me, and I just do this for hours, just imagining myself going across that finish line. And that was when my imagination sparked, and I decided I wanted to become a filmmaker, a storyteller, and inspire others to use their imagination. And I set out to do this for the next 15 years, directing feature films and television. And I had a wonderful career. But along that journey, one thing I noticed was when I was going to school, film school, I was learning camera, and I was learning 35 millimeter film. Anybody remember 35 millimeter film? And that was like the thing, right? You took pride in learning 35 millimeter film. But around that time, you started to hear about digital cinema coming into play, right? The landscape was changing. And Spielberg and Lucas, they were talking about moving into digital. And I was like, well, Kodak would never be replaced. Blockbuster, none of that was at risk. And I remember graduating and finishing my film program. And my first job was actually not 35 millimeter film. It was digital cinema. And I'm like, hold on, I spent all this time learning how to load 35 millimeter film, want to be a filmmaker, hence the term filmmaker. And now I'm learning digital cinema. So there's a lot of talk right now about what could potentially happen while you're going to school now, and a career might not even exist 5 to 10 years from now. That's a possibility, right? But what about our own unique strengths and abilities? So what I learned from that was we went from DSLR film, the democratization of filmmakers making films on their cell phones, YouTube, and then eventually social media, right? Where anybody could become a storyteller. And what I found interesting about that was I didn't lean into and embracing the change at that time. I was really stubborn. I was prideful about being a filmmaker. And I just kind of had to pick up the pace. And eventually I said, you know what, when this comes around next time, I'm going to make sure I lean into this opportunity to embrace the change and adapt with the time. So I want to talk to you a little bit about adaptability. Around this time, I was really looking to expand my career. I mean, people want to continue growing in their careers or going back to school, getting their master's programs, things like that. And have you ever come to a place in your career, oh, my mouth is getting dry. Last time I did a talk, I didn't have any water. My mouth was super dry. And my kids watched the video online. They said, Dad, what's wrong with your mouth? My top lip was stuck at the top of my teeth like Fire Marshal Bill in Living Color. Let me tell you something. It was so awkward, right? And my kids were so brutally honest with me. So let me just take a moment to get a little drink of water so this doesn't happen again, because they're shooting video for me this time. Again. All right, so where we were. So around the time I wanted to really push myself, right? Going back to imagination. I had a really wonderful career directing feature films, but I also felt like there was more that I could do, right? You ever feel like there's so much more you could do? And I really wanted to go back to pushing the boundaries of possibilities. And I never forget, I ended up connecting. One day my manager set me down and we were trying to plan out the future of my career. And he said, Alton, you've been doing some amazing things, but you're too comfortable. And I said, okay. I said, well, what are we going to do? He said, what we're going to do is, there's so much more you can do. There's so much ahead of you. And you're bigger than what you're doing. He said, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do you a favor. I said, what? He said, I'm going to fire you today. And I'm confused, and I'm like, has anybody ever fired you and gave you a compliment at the same time? So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, what do I do now? Where do I go from here? I mean, it was like, being on a racetrack and someone take you off the racetrack and say, okay, now run over here by yourself. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I do now? So I'm having to start over and think about, I'm at a crossroad of my career where, I was making a living, and it was great. But here now I have someone pushing me to a space where I have to really, really get uncomfortable. And I had to develop the courage to become a new me and move into a new phase. So around that time, I got introduced to virtual reality. And this was around like 2015. And I really couldn't believe just how fast some of these new technologies were coming out, right? So I had to really, really lean into it. I didn't really have a choice. It was like, okay, where do I go from here? So as they say, sometimes it takes a shake-up to wake up. And that's what it was for me. And that's what really thrust me into virtual reality. So my first encounter, someone put me in a VR headset. And can anybody guess what that VR experience was? Just anyone. Wild guess. Beat Saber. Oh, that Beat Saber. Well, I don't think that was quite out yet, but that was a really good one, though, actually. It was actually the same thing that sparked my childhood imagination. It was a NASCAR race. And I could not believe things had come full circle. I was sitting, at this time, I was sitting inside of a NASCAR race, cars zipping by, feeling the momentum and the adrenaline of the cars racing. And for the first time, I went from watching NASCAR on a 2D screen to bringing my body inside of the frame into a lived experience in virtual reality. And it just blew my mind and took me back to my childhood all over again. And I said, you know what? If I can make people feel like this is what I want to do with my career now moving forward. And I moved into virtual reality full speed ahead. But it was not easy, trust me. And I decided to start all over from scratch. And as they say, when you start from, I had to start from the bottom. And I didn't know anybody in that space. So it's really good when you're here with individuals here in this room, it's really about connecting and building community. And that's what I had to do. So I got into the scene, the NABs, the different conferences, the CESs of the world, getting into communities. But me coming from being a director, no one actually gave a damn. They were like, okay, you're a director, but you're in a whole new space now. You're in tech, you're in our world. So I had to start over from scratch, and I had to eat some delicious humble pie. I had to become a production assistant on a virtual reality project, getting coffee, doing runs, whatever I had to do. And I say, you know what, it didn't really matter because I had a focus and I had a vision on where I wanted to go with the knowledge and the experience. So I did that. And I enrolled in what I call UTE, University of Trial and Error, where I set out on the next 2 years of getting my PhD in trial and error. And PhD for me stands for, I became a practitioner of haphazard discovery, learning how to fail forward on my face, but leveraging these technologies and learning them as fast as I could, but through my own strengths. And it took some time, and courage, and looking at my savings account as the money was dwindling away, and saying, hey, babe, I got this idea. I want to make this VR film. And I finally set out, got the courage, and invested in our first VR short film called A Little Love. And it wasn't easy because going from film to virtual reality, you're talking about a 2D screen to 360 degrees, right? And back then it was all about 360. It wasn't really game engine yet. So now I'm introduced to a world where I have a whole canvas to tell a story, right? What do I do with all that information? How do I go from directing your attention to choreographing your attention? So I had to slow down for a minute and say, okay, let me not get overwhelmed with the technology. Let me understand how I can transfer my previous skill sets into immersive storytelling and XR. And give yourself some grace, because if you look back, film took, 100 years to develop the visual grammar of language of film, right? XR and VR was going to take some time too, but we were on the ground developing and learning together. And that's what I did. I leaned into that. And I embraced the challenges, but there was also possibilities of creating things and new experiences and making mistakes and getting in the trenches together. And then I also leaned on a personal connection to bring this story to life. Around that time, my wife had just went back to work, and I wanted to make something about how my daughter felt when she saw her mother go back to work. And you know how when a kid doesn't really understand what's going on, so she made a birthday wish to spend more time with her mother. And guess what the wish was about? Turning her mother into a doll so she could have her all to herself in the house, right? So I was inspired by Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I wanted to make a cool film about scale and really understand how I could play around with that in immersive storytelling. And I'm going to show you how that went. So the film was called A Little Love, and I wanted to blend my previous skill sets as a filmmaker into immersive storytelling. And so we set out to do an experience where we synchronized 75 people in the theater in virtual reality headsets at the same time to sort of bridge them slowly into what the future of storytelling could look like in a community environment, watching the film together. And we showcased this film. I got the opportunity to showcase this as the first, this was one of the first experiences done in this way on the film festival circuit. And it was in partnership with CNN VR, American Black Film Festival, and Samsung, back when Samsung had the VR goggles and phones. And I'll tell you a funny story about that later if we get time. But so here's how it all went as our first virtual reality experience.
Today we're at ADFF showcasing the virtual reality experience for A Little Love. Because a lot of people haven't actually experienced VR. It was a great deal to not only create a story utilizing this new technology medium, but also create a story that's diverse, showing people.
That was tremendous. I was actually truly excited to see this piece.
This is my first time experiencing virtual reality from a scripted standpoint. I thought it was amazing. It was great.
I felt like I was a part of the birthday party, and I was in the moment, and just being able to get up and stand up and just look and engage. What was really amazing to me was how within the VR worlds, we're in this different world, but then we were in two different worlds, and that was really amazing.
This will excite a lot of young people to really want to find out what they want to do in life, and they can experience right before them.
I would say that you have to try the virtual reality experience. It's one like no other.
All right, so that was our first virtual reality experience, and it took me about 2 years to really take myself through the journey of really understanding and digging deep and learning how to leverage these technologies from my own perspective, right? And not letting the technology get in the way. And along that journey, I discovered a concept called what's your DNA? And that means what's your deep narrative analysis, right? Like, how do you bring your own unique perspective to these technologies, right? And how do you leverage your own transferable skills? And around that time, I started getting introduced to Silicon Valley. And that's when the pace of technologies had picked up tenfold, right? Because you had people now at their core building things that were going to impact the world, right? And I had to really make sure that I didn't let the innovation put me in a place where I was losing my identity. I had to really focus on what I can still bring to the table without chasing the technology. And through that, it allowed me to embrace my personal experiences and really understand how adaptability was more than just about the technology. It was also about all my own unique ingredients that I brought to the table. So never discount all the things that you've learned in the background, your personal experiences, your challenges, your triumphs, vulnerabilities. All those things will help shape and drive innovation and connect you with different individuals on your pathway. And I think that was the most important thing that I learned along that journey, was don't chase the tech. Adaptability is about your story, and it's not just about the technology and letting that define us on our journey to innovation. And as a result of this, one thing that I learned most importantly was this allowed me to recognize my why, my mission, my point of view, and understanding that it was kind of like the bat signal, right? Where I started to attract other like-minded individuals. People were in alignment, organizations, right? That started to really believe in the work we were doing. And then we started to getting more investment into the work that we were doing as a result of that. And then that's when I decided, okay, I got the courage and the confidence now to start GRX Immersive Labs, to become a taproot. And I discovered this term around the taproot, which is a central dominant nerve that digs deep into the ground so that others can sprout, right, through harsh seasons. And I really wanted to understand, how do I take what I've learned and share that with other people so we can expand on building the immersive economy together and leveraging the power of these technologies. And that's when I founded GRX Immersive Labs. And now it's allowed us to really continue to keep growing inspiring others, and investing in other people as well. And I think the most important thing is you're building and creating is understanding that stacking skills is not just about being employable, it's also about being investable. And that's what we want to understand how to do when we're building towards this purpose-driven innovation. And now what I do when I think about XR is not just think about it from a technology standpoint. I always ask myself why, right? Because everything doesn't need to be grounded in technology sometimes. But being that this is the space that I'm in, I like to challenge myself, and we challenge each other. Why XR? Why immersive technology? And one of the things that we really understood is how do we lean into, after going through this journey, how do I lean into discomfort? How do I lean into creating conversation and discourse with this technology, right? And how do I address critical issues through technology and with purpose through my storytelling? And that's allowed me to connect with other people, and it's created collaborative innovation and continue to create more opportunities for growth. And that brings me to a project that was incubated in the Google VR lab. I was invited to the Google VR lab when they were experimenting with some of the new technologies. And I wanted to, around that time, there was a lot going on around police brutality. There was a lot going on around predictive policing and artificial intelligence and AI bias in technology. And I was really curious about, well, what does that look like? And as a future, and as a storyteller, you know, we have the power to forecast and create and design the future. If you look back at all these movies, Star Trek, Minority Report, all of those technologies are now here today, right? So there's power in storytelling, right? Metaverse, all that stuff is started out fiction and sci-fi, but if you look now, a lot of the stuff is not even sci-fi anymore. They are AI drones. So around that time, there was a young man named Tamir Rice, and he was a young 14-year-old kid. So imagine a 14-year-old kid outside, your cousin, brother, sister, playing with a water gun, and the police gunned him down. And it really, really struck a nerve with me, and I was like, wow, we have so much innovation in America. We have so many brilliant minds, so much funding. What if we could have technology that could have been an AI drone first responder to show up to the scene and say, hey, man, put that down. Let's walk away 20 feet. And the cops are going to come talk to you about about being safe in your environment. And we have the tools and the technology to do that. So I said, well, how can I reimagine that and create conversation around that? And how can we talk about developing responsible AI, civic technologies that can empower our communities? And so we set out to make a project called POV, Points of View, about a young man in the future who gets out of prison on early release. And instead of giving him an ankle bracelet, they assign him to an artificial intelligent AI-powered drone. And you see how this young man learns, and this AI learns from him as well, and how they start to develop empathy. And he becomes more than just data. And this project was incubated, was funded in partnership with organizations like I said, Google, Black Public Media, Cerner Foundation, Mozilla, Crux, and several other partners that helped us bring this vision to life. And Amnesty International was a partner as well, to really understand how we can leverage these emerging technologies and actually see some of these things come to life. Here's a sample of how this has come together and how we've been able to now take this work into organizations to start to think about how we leverage these technologies, from Tribeca Film Festival to the John Jay School of Criminal Justice, Ringling School of College and Design, and so many more.
POV, Points of View, is a fully immersive virtual reality experience designed to raise awareness about biases in artificial intelligence. POV is a grant recipient of Google's VR Lab, BPM 360, Mozilla, and Cerner Foundation, produced by GRX Immersive Labs, dedicated to the advancement of knowledge in immersive storytelling and diversity in emerging technologies. POV is a premium immersive experience that transforms event spaces into interactive installations to drive community engagement through storytelling, education, and technology. Through film festivals, museums, and educational institutions, we use POV to explore subjects and themes such as ethics and artificial intelligence, tech equity, and immersive tech literacy. POV is widely accessible in various experiential formats such as VR, desktop, and mobile to include all groups with various touchpoints to enjoy an empowering, educational, and insightful experience for audiences aged 12 and up. This interactive experience invites you to take part in shaping our futuristic narratives. The year is 2025. As an insider, you have been requested to review case file 45623 at the Federal Drone Headquarters. The case centers around 21-year-old Cassius Moore, a gifted black coder who qualifies for early release under a new drone surveillance program after serving 2 years in prison for biometric hacking. In this program, the government assigns Phoenix AI, a drone that is equipped with artificial intelligence and weapons to record Cassius' every move. Follow Phoenix and the former engineering student as they navigate the world together. Your task is to evaluate how machine-driven data and human-driven biases impact the algorithms and outcomes in emerging technologies that can impact us all. GRX Immersive Labs aims to continue creating environments that empower and educate creators, educators, brands, and institutions about the rapidly increasing opportunities in the immersive tech industry to develop solutions that build an equitable and inclusive metaverse.
So this has really helped me understand, as I mentioned before, how do I take the technology and how do we lean into our own strengths? And as I continue to grow and build my confidence in the space, it's really helped me understand that it's all about how we leverage the technology. And this has prepared me for ultimately prepared me for one of my biggest challenges, which was a project that I worked on with Time Magazine called The March. And this was the first time that I got a chance to work with probably about maybe 200 plus people on one project. And, working with a brand like Time Magazine, it was all about, journalistic integrity and pushing the boundaries of technology. And had an opportunity to really understand how to use XR to tackle real world issues. And this project brought together so much multidisciplinary thinking and collaboration from artificial intelligence engineers to 3D designers and world builders. Learned about tools like photogrammetry. We had to scan the Lincoln Memorial. I mean, there were so many different technologists, artists, creators, designers that came together. And one thing that I really loved about the growth of the XR industry is that cross-pollination of skill sets and how we can all start to shape and mold each other and bring our own unique perspectives to the table. And as a result of that, we ended up creating an installation, which is one of my first installations as well, and creating an immersive experience that has become extremely impactful and given us meaning behind how we leverage these tools. And I'll just show you just a glimpse of some of the making of this project. And one thing that's interesting, how fast technology has come. That's actually not a photo of Dr. King up there. That's actually a 3D replica that we had to design of Dr. King using artificial intelligence. And one thing that was really blew me away was his children had to actually go into virtual reality, see their father, who they hadn't seen since they were kids, and actually sign off on his likeness. So that really showed me the power of how far technology has come and how we were able to use that in a very purpose-driven way.
So The March is an immersive installation, like stepping into a Time Magazine cover of the 1960 March on Washington and experience up close and personal with Dr. King in virtual reality, like we've never seen before.
We thought, imagine being able to stand in front of Martin Luther King while he delivers this speech.
Now is the time!
Or being in close proximity to history. That's where we began our journey. Right now, there is nothing like this in VR. The pinnacle of the challenges is the creation of Dr. King.
To have it feel like you are truly looking into another human being's soul is very, very difficult.
But I really wanted to try to push that boundary and make a big jump in the industry towards realism with virtual humans.
to create a new blend of technology that allows us to do something that is as real as our digital humans for feature films in real time as well for things like VR.
And I think it's going to touch a lot of people out there in the country. And that's the intention.
And molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside.
There we go. All right. So, as I enter my final act of the story, I just want to remind you, one thing about this entire journey was that it was not, with frustration, moments of, being afraid or not feeling like I was adequate enough to move forward with the technologies. And I remember having a conversation with a good friend and an advisor, because throughout this journey, there was an idea that I had of myself as a filmmaker, and then moving into technology, being a technologist, taking on these roles. And eventually, because of the work that we were doing, I was being, approached as becoming an educator. And my work started to transition from storytelling to technology to education. And I remember one day she said, Alton, you're a great storyteller, but now you're dealing with a lot of technologies, and now you're moving to education. How do you feel about that? And are you willing to put another 3 to 5 years like you did in technology and XR into education? And I had to really sit with that for a minute, because my identity was so rooted in being a filmmaker and being an XR innovator. And I realized that we're all evolving. We all have to keep evolving, right? And as the technology evolves, we need to evolve as well, but leading with our own unique perspectives. And as a result, I've been able to come back into the space, embrace the changes, adapting with the time, and understanding that now, I can continue to leverage technology as a tool to not only amplify my voice, but other people's voices, and really focus on that purpose-driven innovation. And now I have the opportunity, as I'm working with organizations like Verizon, as a result of that first seed that was planted with the Little Love, the VR experience. We have a partnership with them now, and it's allowed me the opportunity to reach the kids that were once like myself with this technology, and plant that seed in them and spark that imagination and innovation, and merge technology, storytelling, and education together. And this has been a great opportunity for personal growth and empowerment. And one thing that I think is very important about all of this is that throughout the journey, I learned that the most important story that we tell is the one we tell ourselves first. Regardless of what field you're in, what direction you decide to go in, whether you start over or not, that's the most important story, and it starts there. And now I want to give you a glimpse of the full circle moment, right, of reframing your reality, right, and taking a moment to turn those setbacks into new opportunities, and embracing the future of XR and AI, and understanding that it's going to keep growing fast, it's going to keep changing, but if we just take a moment to really tap into our own DNA, as I mentioned, and understanding how we can bring meaning to what we're doing, I think we can also lower that fear and that sentiment around what's going to happen with these technologies, right? And we can start to shape really wonderful experiences together. And here's just a snapshot of the culmination of what that journey has brought to life, in me understanding that this journey was bigger than me, and how I can now use technology to advance opportunities and move the future forward. And understanding that together, we have to build the railroad tracks, because we know the train is coming. And if we do that together and we do it responsibly, we can build and be in control of our futuristic narrative. So here's the
Welcome to GRX Immersive Labs. My name is Alton Glass, CEO and storyteller. We're a future-forward studio powering metaverse technologies to innovate storytelling, accelerate immersive education, and amplify culture. We believe in empowering learners to become world builders, innovators, and creative entrepreneurs. We are storytellers. Imagination is frameless, and boundaries do not exist in how we learn and tell our stories. Working with immersive media tools allows us to push the boundaries of conventionality and bring our ideas to fruition. GRX's educational programming and content development services help bring your creative vision to life. Our experiential learning platform is the gateway to immersive careers and creative entrepreneurship. We provide a range of content and courses such as Unreal Engine Foundations, POV, Intro to AI, and Arts Meets in Tech that train individuals in emerging technologies for real-time 3D, digital asset creation, and music production. Our programs weave together storytelling, education, and technology so you can create worlds and reimagine tomorrow. We understand the importance of education that meets both current standards and the needs of the future. Our content is compatible with academic standards and can be integrated into pre-apprenticeship programs to enhance learning outcomes and prepare students for immersive careers. Join GRX Immersive Labs and Verizon Innovative Learning and take the first step toward a career in the immersive economy. Enroll today and start your journey to design the future.
You would have told me 15 years ago I'd be here right now talking to you today. I would have never imagined it. And I just want to encourage you to understand, to embrace the unknown, right? And you never know how you might start off, how you might finish. And as a result of this, I just want to, thank you. I want to give a call to action that we can together design the future. You are in a great breeding ground right now at University of Michigan for innovation. You have a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to collaborate, build, and shape the future together and tap into these resources. But I want to remind you to tap into your own unique perspective and your DNA. And the world doesn't need just more technology. It needs more of you and your imagination and your authentic self. And I want you to lean into that. Thank you very much. I want to go on to my last slide. Let's build together. Let's stay connected. And again, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to end a little bit early in case you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alton. Great work, amazing work. I've tried some of it. It's pretty impressive. A few moments for questions. Anybody have a question? Raise your hand. I can bring a mic around. Yes, Chris.
That was a great talk. My name's Chris Quintana. I'm with the School of Education, researching learning technologies, and I have a question about attention. As educators, you're trying to grab your learners' attention, maintain it, give them room to take their attention to different places. As a storyteller, what are you learning about attention as we move from I'm here watching a film that's over there to now being in the story? VR lets us be in the story, and how is that changing your thought process as a storyteller?
Yeah, I mean the beautiful part about it's a wonderful challenge, right? Because I mentioned, you go from directing attention to actually learning how to choreograph attention. So you have to now start to think in a much more layered approach, right? Like, if I want you to go to that door over there, what do I do with that area? Do I cast a certain type of light on there, a certain type of sound over there? And then how do I give the user room to bring in their own imagination, right? And sort of paint the canvas with me. So then you get into opportunities to create interactive experiences, right? You got passive and then you got interactive. And I think where we are now with technology is you have the ability to think more deeply about what an interactive experience looks like to sort of give students or viewers the opportunity to sort of choose their own adventure. And I think that allows them to increase their engagement.
That one might not work because it's on the same channel as his.
That was essentially my question. So I'm good.
Okay, good. All right. Good answer. Other questions? Other comments? How are you keeping up with the changing of the headsets and it takes a lot to build these experiences, and you build one that may only run on this headset that the vendor doesn't even make anymore, or requires a $10,000 computer to run. How have you been thinking about that from your storytelling and creation?
Everything that we build, I try to make sure that it's cross-platform, because you want to also meet people where they are and understand you're still introducing people to these technologies too. So you don't want to just force everybody into a headset, right? So we try to make sure we create experiences that also are mobile friendly, desktop friendly. And then we still use multiple generations of hardware and technology, right? Even though it's evolving, so that people can still sort of bridge themselves into different aspects of the experience. And one thing that's really good about that too is it gives you a little bit more repeatability as well. You can try it in one format, and then it can take you into another experience. So we try to make sure that it's all cross-platform and most importantly, accessible to various audiences.
All right, cool. Thank you. Michael Nebing from the School of Information here. I teach, I would say, creating XR experiences courses, so AR, VR courses essentially. And I'm curious about your approach. My students are often inspired by Black Mirror and some of the evil things. I'm wondering, what is your technique to, is it always about provocation, or like the drone idea? Many things are wrong about this drone, but somehow I think the result is that we might actually like the idea of having that drone around and it's protective or something. So you're creating some interesting... So what's your storytelling technique? Is it about shocking people by showing them the unimaginable, the evil side, or is it creating, like allowing them to see things that maybe they wouldn't have expected? Is there a specific technique?
A combination of both, right? You have to sometimes intro a little familiarity, but then you bring your own unique spin to the experiences, right? To help people imagine and fill in the blank. I always like to leave things sort of open-ended. I think that's where they start to carry the story with them even after it's ended. And I think that's what's really important about it, because then either they're thinking about that particular experience or they're thinking about how they can make something they've been inspired by the experience.
Any other questions? One back here. Tim? You did say you wanted to participate, not just film. So.
First, thanks for your time today. I'm referencing the march. Had you not gotten the approval of Dr. King's family, how would you have went forward with that project? And I guess just in general, navigating those types of conversations with people and their families.
That project, I came on the project after Time had already had the rights. And so I'm not quite sure how we would have made that project without their clearance, because his speeches are actually copywritten. So his estate has done a really good job of protecting his intellectual property. But I think to answer your question, if we didn't have that, it would have probably been focused around how do you galvanize, the power and the energy of over 200,000 people to come together for one purpose and one vision, which would have been that march. And how do you leverage some of the key themes around that, so that when you come out of that experience, you understand how powerful your light can be and make an impact and how significant you are. And that was one of the themes that we focused on for that project. So I think that would have been the way we probably would approach that.
We have time for one more question. Over here, yeah. Get my steps in today. Hey, good to see you.
Thanks, Jim. Hi, my name is Tina Centris. I work at Innovation Partnerships. I was just wondering if you had any advice for people who made their own XR experience, how to promote it and how to showcase it to people so that people adopt it and utilize the XR experience that they've created.
Yeah, it's interesting because coming from film and TV, one thing I liked about VR and XR was there was really no immediate audience or distribution channel, so it had to challenge me to really think about community engagement. So I think trying to understand what are the, like I mentioned, what are the themes? Is there anything that you want to say? Pull out the different aspects of your project and think about who that might align with, right? It might be a student union, it might be a film festival focused on a different cause, it might be an organization, a nonprofit. Think about all the different aspects of that project that could help you identify a list of people and organizations where you can aggregate their audience, and then you take that out. and then you start to create your own sort of distribution avenue. You know, there's a really good read by a guy, and I think his name was Kevin. He talks about the power of 1,000 true fans, right? You know, you don't need 2 million followers, right? You just need a core audience to help you organically build that product out and that message and that content. So think about, you know, who could be aligned with your themes, even if it's just about evangelizing the technology, right? There are organizations who are also in companies all about, or as an investor told me, how do you bring new blood to the big fish? Some companies or festivals who have not gone in that direction, but are like, you know what, we would love to bring some innovation into our particular programming. There's a great opportunity in that space. We get a lot of organizations or partners who want to move into that space, but they don't have the right tools or the resources to bring that to the table, and you can bring that to them.
Thank you, Alton. Really appreciate it. One more round of applause.
Thank you again.